After 100,000, I think everything starts to accelerate and go faster. So, post 100,000, we're not going to be watching $500 candles. Like 1,000 is already kind of normal in one day in terms of volatility. And I think the next step from that is 10,000 and 100,000. We almost had a God candle, I think a couple of weeks ago. I think we got up to 9,000 sort of on the day. But 100,000 is the next step once we start to go well into the higher ranges of Bitcoin. A year from now, I would think we're above 1 million a Bitcoin. This is why I think self-custody and having your own keys is so important. Maybe you want to buy MicroStrategy for trading and playing the markets like you would normal stocks. That's okay, but you should always have your own Bitcoin because that is your insurance against 6102. 2025 is going to be the year of war to accumulate Bitcoin. Everyone's going to be trying to get it.
Samson Mow introduces the concept of the Omega candle, describing it as a monumental $100,000 price movement in Bitcoin within a single day. This idea builds on the God candle, a $10,000 single-day green candle. The Omega candle symbolizes Bitcoin's evolution into a high-volatility asset as it reaches higher price ranges, particularly beyond $100,000. Mow explains that these significant movements reflect Bitcoin's detachment from the fiat monetary system. He critiques fiat's exponential money printing and escalating debt, contrasting this with Bitcoin's fixed supply and sound monetary principles. According to Mow, the volatility inherent in Bitcoin, already observable in countries with weaker fiat currencies like Argentina, Turkey, and Egypt, foreshadows global financial trends. He predicts that as Bitcoin gains traction, such volatility will become normalized even in robust economies.
Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space and drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks and enjoy the video.
Omega candle is just a $100,000 candle in one day. We've kind of had traders posturizing the God candle, which is a $10,000 candle, a green candle. Both are green. A $10,000 green candle on the daily or in one day. So the Omega candle is just a larger movement in terms of Bitcoin price. And I think the reason why I was creating it was kind of also to prime people for the concept of $1 million Bitcoin. Just like with M notation, the world's going to change. After 100,000, I think everything starts to accelerate and go faster. So, post 100,000, we're not going to be watching $500 candles. Like 1,000 is already kind of normal in one day in terms of volatility. And I think the next step from that is 10,000 and 100,000. We almost had a God candle, I think a couple of weeks ago. I think we got up to 9,000 sort of on the day. But 100,000 is the next step once we start to go well into the higher ranges of Bitcoin. But it just goes to show like the fiat system does not really make sense anymore because an Omega candle is nothing in terms of fiat money. Like the debt increases by a couple Omega candles every day, if not like many Omega candles each day. But no one blinks an eye for that, right? So again, like I told you, there's this disconnect between the fiat monetary system that's normalized, that it's growing very fast and at ridiculous rates, but that's normal. But when you talk about Bitcoin, people are like, oh, well, that's crazy. It's not at all. So yeah, the Omega candle is just a big movement in Bitcoin price. And the interesting thing is we already see Omega candles in countries with weaker fiat currencies. Egypt, Turkey, Argentina even. It's normal. Omega candles every day. It's definitely a foreshadowing of what's to come. All fiat currencies will end up like that. It's just a matter of time. And the US dollar is the reserve currency. A lot of debt is still priced in dollars, so it definitely has more legs. But if you look at the purchasing power of a dollar over the last 100 years, it's effectively gone to zero. But it happens gradually enough that people just don't feel it. So it's okay, I guess. But that's the destiny. Just like the destiny of altcoins is to go to zero too. They have one big run up and then they drop. And then they have a second run up and then they fade away into obscurity. So a lot of countries look towards the US for leadership in many areas. And the ETFs are one such example. So Hong Kong and Australia, they didn't launch their ETFs until the SEC greenlit in the US, and then they went ahead with it. So I think if the Trump administration does create this strategic Bitcoin reserve that they're tabling and discussing and pushing for, then we'll start to see a massive cascade that more and more countries around the world are actually doing things. And you start to see a bit of this with the state level adoption of Bitcoin as a reserve asset, and other countries starting to talk about it now too. So it's all starting to really snowball. Companies will be adopting Bitcoin as a reserve asset because a lot of companies have cash flow and excess cash that is melting. So they will pick it up. But will another one reach MicroStrategy size? That's a really debatable point. It's even questionable whether the US can hit that 1 million coin target that they have, that Cynthia Lummis had in her bill to create that reserve. So I think definitely we're reaching the end of 2024 now, but 2025 is going to be the year of war to accumulate Bitcoin. Everyone's going to be trying to get it. You have nation states that are mining it and kept quiet a very long time and not told anybody because, of course, they want the advantage. But you're going to see more of that. More nation states just mining with excess energy that they have that would otherwise, turn to mush and be wasted. And you're going to have countries printing their own currency to buy it, I believe, because they see that there's no downside to it, right? You either print it to do useless things that add zero value, or you print it to buy Bitcoin. So just print it to buy Bitcoin. And then you're going to have public entities like the US and MicroStrategy rapidly accumulating. So there's just going to be all-out war to get your hands on a single Satoshi. A year from now, I would think we're above 1 million a Bitcoin, but everything is exciting. I think for us and myself personally at Gen 3, we're excited to onboard the next billion people to Bitcoin. I think a lot of Bitcoin companies and wallets have not really made much progress on advancing Bitcoin adoption in a meaningful way. Everyone's focused on making a cool wallet with very cool tech, but nobody's really focused on onboarding people that want to get into Bitcoin or don't know about Bitcoin. There's just no wallet for that yet. And that's really what we're trying to do.
Mow's overarching thesis is that Bitcoin represents a lifeboat for nations, businesses, and individuals navigating a collapsing fiat system. He predicts that countries rejecting Bitcoin will face economic stagnation or decline, while those aligning with it will secure wealth and relevance on the global stage. The transition to a Bitcoin-dominated economy will not be seamless. Mow foresees significant turbulence, including potential regulatory crackdowns, market volatility, and geopolitical tensions. However, he remains optimistic that Bitcoin's core properties, decentralization, scarcity, and portability, will ensure its long-term success.
This is why I think self-custody and having your own keys is so important. Maybe you want to buy MicroStrategy for trading and playing the markets like you would normal stocks. That's okay, but you should always have your own Bitcoin because that is your insurance against 6102. And I think you have to, as a Bitcoiner, expect that 6102 is going to happen somehow. There's always going to be a very important reason to seize coins or effectively stop you from using them, right? And if you look at 6102, it was not technically, definitionally seizure. They just kind of said, well, if you do anything that, if you don't give it up, you're going to be in trouble with potential jail time and whatnot. And you see this kind of soft coercion recently with the COVID, right? Like, well, varying, there were definitely people arrested for not complying, but by and large, the control over the population was soft coercion, and peer pressure and Karens and, ratting on everyone else that's not doing what they're supposed to do. So you can see the same thing possibly happening with the institutional Bitcoin, the Bitcoin that's, in ETFs and in corporations. But I think there's always a defense to that, which is people have their own Bitcoin, and if they can move, then Bitcoin will survive because they'll move and they'll walk across the border and know 12 words and bring their life savings with them. There will still be Bitcoin in circulation. And I've theorized before that we might see a bifurcation of Bitcoin into institutional Bitcoin and free Bitcoin. So institutional Bitcoin is Bitcoin that's locked up in BlackRock's coffers. MicroStrategy government holdings, but you'll still have, free Bitcoin that's circulating in economies around the world, being used to pay for things and being used as cash, as money. The question mark is, will this happen, or will there still be a bridge between these two buckets of Bitcoin? And we've seen, this can go either way, I would say. We've seen initiatives in the EU to limit transfer from one VASP to another VASP. So you could easily extend that rationale and say, ETFs can only send to other ETFs, even when you sell. And, that will cause two prices of Bitcoin, one price for institutional Bitcoin and another price for free Bitcoin. And I hope that doesn't happen. But, obviously the free Bitcoin will win at the end of the day because you can do anything you want with it. The other one is going to be heavily encumbered with different rules and different conditions on which it can be used and accessed. So, we'll see what happens, but definitely I think you'll always have Bitcoin usable as money so long as anybody can mine Bitcoin and transact in Bitcoin. I think the nation states that adopt Bitcoin early on will continue to be nation states, and then the other ones are going to maybe cease existing because they don't have money, because money is what makes the world go around. Many people like to deny that fact, but it is all about the money, and the countries that can accrue wealth and keep it and attract new wealth are the ones that are going to succeed on longer time horizons. And you already see this in, say, Europe, right? Switzerland is very much a country that understands money and wants money to come in. The rest of Europe seems to not like money, and they want to control it and monitor it and regulate it. And that's not going so well for them at all. And not just money, but everything else. Their tech industry is gutted. But you can see this sort of trend happening where countries that are seeking growth are looking towards Bitcoin or deregulating money. So examples, again, El Salvador, but also more importantly, Argentina. So Milei has effectively deregulated money in possibly steps towards his goal to shut down the central bank. But you can use anything you want for trade settlement. You can use Bitcoin, you can use dollars, you can use cows or stable coins, whatever you choose. So he's opened that door now. And I think that combined with his other policies has largely lifted Argentina out of the death spiral that it was in. So countries like Canada are definitely not on that path yet. We're still focused on things like carbon tax, even though we're probably a carbon negative country. Not that I think carbon matters that much. It's methane that is doing anything, if anything. But, Western countries by and large are focused on, I don't even know how to explain it. They're doing random things that have no effect on their economy or the world. It's just busy work. And other countries are trying to lift themselves out of poverty, grow their economy, and become magnets for innovation and migration and capital. So that's the battle for the next few decades. The countries that align with Bitcoin and the ones that reject Bitcoin. And I strongly believe the ones that reject Bitcoin are going to end up as failed states.
Samson Mow's vision for Bitcoin paints a compelling picture of a world in flux, where digital assets reshape economies, governments, and individual freedoms. His insights challenge us to consider our role in this evolving landscape and to prepare for a future where Bitcoin's influence extends far beyond financial markets. Whether you're an investor, policymaker, or curious observer, the message is clear. Bitcoin is not just an asset, it's a paradigm shift.
Please like and subscribe my channel.